I want to go game by game through Nebraska's gauntlet they have in front of them in the 2024 season. Over-under win total in Vegas, man, is 7.5. Now, as we go game by game here, I want to preface it with this. It's July. It's July. Let's have some fun, man. The fact that we can see these games being played, the fact that we got UTEP on the horizon, we can like start to make plans for that. We can see Colorado week 2 on the horizon for Nebraska. Like, let's enjoy that. We're going to shoot our shot here, and we don't apologize for it, all right? So let's get after it. Nebraska fans, man, y'all have been so good to us. Subscribing to this channel, getting in the comment section, interacting with the content. Thank you for that. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel and you're a Nebraska fan, we need you locked in. We need you subscribed. The Dylan Raiola era is about to get rolling. Year 2 of the Matt Rhule regime is about to be on and popping. We want y'all locked in here. Make sure you're subscribed. We appreciate you so much in advance for doing that. Again, over under 7.5 win total. And if you go, even if you go under, hit 7, it's like, golly, man. First time making a bowl since 2016. If you're Nebraska, you take that. However, though, you're expecting a little bit more than that. You'd like to hit the over there. And I think there's good reason for that. There is a lot less fingers crossed kind of vibe in Lincoln these days, because you have 77% production back from last year's squad that was in every single football game just about that they played besides Michigan. And here's the big and. You have a quarterback now that you believe is the future for you. You believe he's the difference maker. Like, he is the special sauce that will make this whole thing go. And I believe that that's fair to have that hope, fair to have that sort of assumption around the way this football team is going to operate. I think it's important, too, to mention, I do not believe that the close losses from last year for Nebraska will persist. The reason why, you got Matt Rhule running your football program. And if I know anything about Matt Rhule, and I was able to play under him for like 15 minutes, he is all about the details. And details are how you win close football games or how you lose close football games. Quick story before we go game by game here. When I was at Baylor with Matt Rhule, we did this, it's funny, we did this thing called the program. Not program, it was the program. And it was essentially a lot of team building. It was military exercises. And it was like former Navy SEALs that came through and put us through all of this to try and get us all dialed in to be disciplined on the same page. All that really hard, really good. You got in the pool at like 4 a.m., did a bunch of calisthenics. You get the gist of it. At the end of that program, the last thing we had to do was do a perfect jumping jack. All right, so what that entailed was we have to all be on the same count together, start together, finish together, 1, 2, 3, perfect jumping jack, perfectly synchronized. We didn't do it. Tried it, you had one shot at it, you missed it, that was it, you didn't get it. And so it was like, all right, that was it, you missed, that's the end of it though. Like, let's break it down, let's go back to the facility and, get some sleep. On the bus ride back, Matt Rhule says, see y'all back here at 2 p.m. We're going to do that perfect jumping jack. Like, that's how much it matters to him. I'm just saying, I don't think that those details that hurt Nebraska a year ago will be an issue for them again in 2024. So let's go game by game here and give you our prediction for them in 2024. First game, you got UTEP. It's a dub. It should be a dub. If it's not a dub, we got major issues. Now, where it gets juicy, you got Colorado coming to town. Night game in Lincoln. Here's the thing with this game for me. If you are going to be who you say you are in 2024, going to be that team that makes a bowl game, going to be that team that, causes some trouble for other teams across the Big Ten, you have to win this football game. Last year, Nebraska turned it over 4 times in this one. 4 times. Can't do it. Cannot do it. I think they win that football game. I think they'll be more disciplined. I think they have more firepower on offense. I think they're going to be a much improved operation in 2024, and I think they'll be able to get Colorado with it being at Nebraska. So go ahead and dial that one in as a win. Northern Iowa, dub. Illinois, that's a dub. At Purdue, could be sneaky. It's a road game for your true freshman quarterback. I'm assuming it's Dylan Raiola. Should take care of business there. Now, here's a tricky one. You got Rutgers before your bye week, and then you're at Indiana. So I want to go back to Rutgers. It may not be Rutgers, but I think within these first 7 games, I'm accounting for some kind of freshman moment for Dylan Raiola. Now, what does that mean? Is it a multiple interception game? Is it a costly mistake game? I'm not down on Dylan Raiola by any stretch of the imagination, but to assume that he just rolls through the beginning of this schedule with no issues at all, no hiccups, to me, that's a bit of a more difficult sell for me to make. So for this Rutgers game, it might be Rutgers, it might be one of these other games. I'm going to go ahead and say they drop that one. Go into the bye week. You're at Indiana. Indiana now, first-year head coach. We'll see what they end up being. I think that's going to be maybe a little bit of a tricky spot for Nebraska because it's a look ahead. You got Ohio State the next week. However, I do think you win that football game. Now, the game after that, you go to Ohio State. Now, like, let's be real, man. Like, Ohio State, from a roster talent level, should beat Nebraska. They should. That's not shade to Nebraska. If anything, like, that's just common sense. Look at how Ohio State has recruited. Look at what they did through the portal. Nebraska is building to ultimately compete with Ohio State in the future and beat Ohio State in the future. That's the plan. I promise you. Matt Rhule was not here to shake hands and go 9-3 and call it a good season because they lost to Ohio State by a couple of points. That's not how he gets down. However, even though I think you lose to Ohio State, the thing I'd watch in this game is what's the gap? What's the gap here? Like, how far off are we if we're Nebraska? How competitive are we? I'm not saying you take a moral victory. I'm just saying watch the line of scrimmage, watch how Raiola plays in what I expect to be a big-time atmosphere on the road. Tough place to play. He was committed to Ohio State at one point in time during his recruitment. How does Raiola handle that? First year starting quarterback, so we'll see what he ends up being long-term, but like this will be a really good litmus test for us when it comes to Nebraska. I think you beat UCLA, then you have a bye week, then you're at USC. I could see this one going either way, to be honest with you. Right now, with it being at USC, I'll lean towards that Lincoln Riley offense. Now, if USC doesn't have a defense improved, like this could be a real good time for Nebraska hanging out in LA for the weekend and going back to Lincoln with a dub. So I'll say that much. But I do think that they actually dropped that game at USC. Wisconsin, gosh, I love Luke Fickell, man. I do. I think they have a really good roster. They are top 20 in returning production. So I think you lose that game as well. Then you come back home. You're at Iowa. And this is a game, if you're a Nebraska fan, you're like, man, like, dude, we should have had this game last year. Like, this should have been a win for us a season ago. It wasn't. However, the improvement at quarterback, I think the culture overall, I think the detail-oriented nature of them will be enough to win that football game. So I think that Nebraska hits the over on 7.5. I think they finish with a record of 8-4. You're going bowling, obviously, with a record of 8-4 for the first time since 2016. And here's the nice part about this for Nebraska. Like, here's the overwhelming sentiment when you close the book on what 2024 will be. We were never crazy. Like, maybe crazy in a good way for how much we love the Cornhuskers, but like, we were never crazy in telling ourselves the story of how close we were. Because you lose so many games by one score, year after year after year, you're like, okay, like, are we actually that close? The scoreboard says we are, but like, if we're going to keep losing close games, is that just who we are? This kind of a season where you win 8 football games, okay, we were never crazy. It just took the right quarterback. It just took the right head coach. It just took the right way of doing things. Now let's keep rolling. The exciting thing with that momentum, to me, is what they do on the recruiting trail. And the thing with Matt Rhule now, he doesn't need the 5 stars. I promise you, they'll take the 5 stars. I think at some point in time, they'll end up, competing for some of those 5 stars. But if you just get Matt Rhule some ammunition, some proof of concept, he takes the 3-star that fits his system perfectly. He develops him into an NFL draft pick. Jalen Petrie at Baylor, he didn't recruit him, but he was a lower profile recruit. He wasn't that 5-star cat out of high school. Matt Rhule takes over the job at Baylor, develops Jalen Petrie. Jalen Petrie now making a lot of plays in the NFL for the Houston Texans. So a lot of momentum off of a season like this going forward, and Nebraska is cooking with gas. So let me know your feel on this. Let me know your prediction for Nebraska from a win-loss perspective in 2024. But we're calling our shot. We got the Huskers going 8-4 in the second year of the Matt Rhule regime. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also, be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.